this is an impromptu live stream. This is something that came through and has been coming through as I've been going on my own journey. This is something that has been very much present in almost every conversation that I have had with so many people. So I want to cover really, how I'm seeing this, what is happening right now, and really start a conversation that might be slightly disruptive. Let me just close a few things out here so I can see the thing. Okay, so if you were in a space where nothing feels like it's working, and I've written a couple posts around this. I'm very almost hesitant to really lead with this because it's going to attract very different kinds of things. So right now, just setting the tone for this is the extreme power that we do have in this moment. So this is not about being in that space that nothing is working and we're going to blame whatever, anything on that. But if you feel like this is an actual real thing that is happening right now, and we'll unravel it here today, but this begins with perhaps some 3D stuff. So maybe you are being really called right now to move beyond the current paradigm. So in business, you'll see a lot of people who, you're maybe a little more savvy now. Maybe you've been burned by some lack of integrity, investing in things that were fluff, or when it comes to spirituality, self-help, whatever that looks like, trying all the things, hiring the executive coaches, hiring the mentors, hiring the business people. And there's an unveiling that might be happening in various areas of your life. And now this is only like a fragment of the reality and the potential that is available to us when we work beyond logic, when we get to the depth and the root of our desires and learn to actually craft them without looking to these things. So what I have noticed is, even with all of those things, mindset work isn't working, strategy isn't working, the action only isn't working, the trying to lean back into whatever feminine, that isn't working, logic only isn't working. And this can be presenting in various ways. So I'll go into some of this today around this, because what I've actually seen is it's so clear, and I did not realize that so many people are experiencing this. So I want to really go into this today. And what we know is that there is an entirely new realm of creation beyond logic and analysis and beyond the intellect, right? If you wouldn't be here, you didn't know that, right? If you had that knowing in your body. So there is that experience of, we know that this is, but there is a newer layer, paradigm, era that is unraveling right now, that even in the energetic realm, it is something different. It's actually like the operational system has shifted. And I've spoken on this before in various different ways through the years, but this is now something that is so profound, because what is happening is that people are trying the things in the 3D paradigm and it's not actually working. We have, visionaries and luminaries craving depth, craving to be fully understood, maybe hiding even in the spiritual metaphysical circles. They don't feel like anyone even gets it in there, or maybe they're in a specific industry and they don't feel like anyone gets it in there, whatever it is. But it's like, and let me know if this is your experience, it's like you are constantly translating when you are not actually meant to stay in this paradigm anymore. So when you are actually already in or moving into this new system. So I'll explain this. This was me. I realized I kept pulling myself out of the actual embodiment of my work to try and land this in the 3D somehow. Like this was how everyone else was doing it, right? It really, really works for them. And every single time I would try it for myself, it did not work in any way, shape, or form to my satisfaction at all. And I have hired the best of the best. I have done all of the work. This is another thing I want to talk about, but it didn't matter what I did or what form I tried to actually present it in. No matter how much action I was taking, it was not working. And there is a reason for this. And it was baffling because the level of confidence and the level of power that I was actually feeling and the extreme results that my clients were getting were like beyond anything that I had ever experienced before. Their gifts were coming online. I mean, all this stuff was really, really happening. But when I tried any template, any operational, to move in that operational system, it actually stopped working altogether. It wouldn't even work a little bit. And I want to address this energy right here, because this is it. This is a very precise energy that's happening now. So this happened to me on, varying levels, but this last time was so profound, so deep, so wild. And I have confirmed this and multiple people. And then as I reached out to those in my roundtables, in my network, my clients too, to some degree, those were reaching out to me as well. The people who manifested easily before, who like everything that they touched turned to gold, like they were so good at creating anything on this system, all of a sudden it just stopped working. It just completely stopped working. In such a sudden and intense way, momentum ceased. And I was just told by, with somebody who, multiple people who have had really very lucrative businesses, like have gone down to zero. So much that some of them have landed in a depression or are considering getting a $20 an hour job. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's something happening, right? They were trying to sell things at all different levels. And no matter what they had tried, they kept trying different things and nothing worked. So I'm not saying this to be doom. I'm not saying this to be in that space even of like, because these people have actually tried and done all the work, because I know some people will come out of the woodwork and say, well, I've done all the work. And I'm not talking about if you've focused your energy for a couple of weeks and you didn't see what you wanted. This was like people who were consistently doing the things and creating the things, and then all of a sudden nothing. So this is really what I want to address today, because this is, once again, not doom. Actually, don't think this is a bad thing. This is a very precise thing. And if you really listen to it, I think this is going to land for the people who really understand this. What came through about the lesson here is what I want to share, because this is really, really important as we are moving into this new evolutionary age era. I don't have a name for it. Doesn't matter. I'm not interested in labeling it or naming it. But of course, the 3D stuff is going to work for the people who are operating in the 3D. So if you're like, why? It works for them and them and them, right? This is why we have a lot of people focusing just on money and wealth, let's say. And the coaching that perpetuates the 3D angles of money, wealth, messaging, copy, right? Tangible 3D, and that works, but only for those operating in that system. So if you're here and this is landing and you're like, okay, this is this is happening for me, you're not meant to operate in that system. So the live stream isn't about any of that, the 3D stuff. Yes, these things work, but if you have felt extremely in the void, like no one gets you, maybe a bit of an outcast, maybe quite delusional in what you actually desire, like the things worked before, whether it's just how you were operating in life or operating in your business, if it just does not work and you feel like you're almost unable to move that needle right now, if you are looking around you and you can literally smell the templated, recycled versions of things over and over again, and you're kind of sitting in that place of, actually that's really judgmental. I really don't want to judge that, but you don't know what else to do. Like you see the copywriting rules, you know, the LinkedIn posts with the bullet points and the special hooks and the emojis, and here's how you frame it. And you need to make sure that there's space between your, you know, between your sentences, and you know, the authentic storytelling that feels so fucking manufactured, right? Are you hearing me? So this really is something that I've heard many people are experiencing, and they've been trying to deeply connect in some way, but it doesn't feel like it's actually happening anywhere. You know, you see the facade, but you don't know how to quite bust through it. This is it right here. I'm doing this live stream simply to tell you that you are not alone in this experience, because people actually on this level, and I don't say level in sort of like hierarchy, I don't believe that. This is not a judgment, like one is better than another, but there's a way to frame this so we can understand that the people who are who don't want to operate in the old paradigm anymore, they don't want that anymore. They don't want that facade. They don't want the recycled energy, and it's not actually going to work for you if you are dipping back into that realm. So here's what I see when things start to fall apart. A lot of people will judge this chaos, which might be where some of you are right now. Like, what the fuck is going on? I don't feel happy, although I should have all the things, or I don't have the recognition, or I don't have the money, or I did have the money and now I don't have the money, or I have the money and like this isn't actually working for me, or you're trying to create something and it feels like crickets. So you throw more action at it, you throw more mindset on it at it. Maybe you're trying to throw whatever modality on it. You join a mastermind, but it's all the same people, or it just feels really incestuous, or it's the same people and kind of the same mentality, whether it's a victim mentality, or there's a lot of this like fawning going on as well, like the idolization, like that is also done. Or it's a push mentality, like how many can you get, how many clients can you get, how much money can you get, how many calls can you make, how many, right? So all the pushing mentality, or the getting mentality, or those who maybe you're in a place where people don't understand you, and they don't understand your vision. And so they tell you in like directly or in subtle ways, well, tone that down, or that can't work, or that's a little crazy, or you need to be less la la land around it, or whatever is being, you know, said to you. Or they just can't see it. So they're like, oh, that's nice, but they're not offering, like pushing you to an actual edge. And you've actually tried all the things. I'm going to reiterate this because I'm not talking about starting a project or something new and then you give it a couple weeks and you don't see anything. I'm talking about a large period of time where you have implemented, you've sustained some kind of success, power, flourishing in some way, and then all of a sudden it stops. So you go back and you try so-and-so's method, or you go back to what worked before, like, hey, doing this worked before, so I'm going to just go with the basics, right? You're often told, like, just go back to what works, keep it simple. So whether it's in business, mentorship, or health, or self-help, transformation, whatever it is. But here's what's really happening. And I'm going to say this probably 100 times in this live stream, but you're not actually meant to play in that dimension. Let me know if this is landing for you. Hit me up in the chat. I see a few of you in here live. And of course, if you're in the replay, I do want to hear from you as well. You are not meant to play in this dimension at all. And when I say at all, this is the energy right now. It is so precise that the moment you dip your little pinky toe into the old paradigm, it's not going to work. It's like you're holding a tool, right? In this particular grid of energy or paradigm, this plane, dimension, whatever. And you're trying to use it and the tool is literally dissolving in your hands. You can't actually use it. And what happens is I see a lot of really beautiful, incredible people falling and collapsing into, it must be me. It must be something I'm doing, or I'm not doing enough, or whatever that story is. So what's happening is you're walking into a room where no one speaks your language. And you're like, well, I have to speak their language. So we can apply this to so many things, right? If you're a business owner, like I have to speak the language of my client, or I have to learn how to do copywriting and messaging and all of this. If you think about relationships, right? I have to translate. I have to make sure that they understand me and, all of this, right? You're trying to speak their language. You're trying to learn their language. You're trying to enter that room only to realize you've entered the room, you are trying to speak their language, and you don't even want to be a part of the conversation. You don't want to be talking about what they're talking about. You guys feel me? Have you felt that way? So the energy right now is really, really precise. It feels more black and white than ever. And this is what really came through around this. It revolves around integrity, in radical self-trust. It goes beyond the surface level purpose or desire. It goes beyond, making money just to make the money. It goes beyond being seen just to be seen. It goes beyond get the engagement on your social so that you can just get the engagement and feed your ego and feel like, whatever you want to feel. It goes beyond every single thing that you think is, necessary. If you are not in the fullest integrity with you, if you are not actually embodying the thing, if you're slipping back to try and play in this paradigm over here that you're not meant to play in, and I know this is landing for some of you, because you know that you're not meant to play there, but you're like, what else? What the fuck do I do then? Because there's this idea of, well, if I'm meant to play over here, I should be able to play over here. I've like mastered so much here. Why can't I do it? I should be able to do it here. And that's it. That's the thing where it's messing with the energy, because the integrity begins with you, and the most radical self-trust of what comes through you gets to create the thing. And I don't have all the answers around this. I do feel that it is an entirely new operational system. So it's no longer the step by step by step takes you to the thing. It's almost as if it's always constantly evolving, and it will never be step by step. It will never be. This is why my work is so bespoke, because it is your technology. It's what's living inside of you that is actually going to create the thing, but you also have to not even care about creating the thing. It is going to be a space of just radical trust. And I think this is really where a lot of people are right now, because this is where it begins. Because when you go and you dip your toe into the other realm, the other paradigm, you're actually compromising. You can be successful as hell, you can have all the accolades, all the wealth, right? But then it feels like shit, or it actually falls apart, because that there's something else that you want to do. That there's something else that you want to create and land, or that there's something big you really want to say. Or you've been trying to do the things that you usually do, and you just keep hitting up against these patterns, right? Or it's crickets. Like someone is literally thwarting you, because you are being thwarted because you're trying to do it over here. And this is what I mean about precision of the energy. You are not meant to even enter that room. You're meant to like go open the window and fly. That's what you're meant to do. You're not meant to operate in that system or paradigm. And every time you do, you are then caught in a snare. And that's what's really frustrating, because once again, the mentality is like, I should be able to just nail it over here, right? Shouldn't I? And then you confuse the hell out of yourself, because then a lot of times we go in our mind and we start to like, ingest and try and consume to fix the problem, when actually you don't have a problem. So this precision of energy, if you're not showing up in that integrity, if you're not showing up in that trust, this is where there's going to be that friction. If your words and desires are not actually matching your deeds, if you're staying in one place because it worked before, or because it's safe, or you're watering down what you're here to do, or you're continuing to try and translate or manipulate your work in some way so that it lands, so that you can then get this outcome, so that you can then get this other outcome, so that you can then, right? This is not how this frequency is working. If you are always thinking about the audience or who you're talking to, furthering the projects on like a surface level, so it pleases somebody else, right? If you're trying to recreate frequencies, if you're trying to gain recognition, and you're lost in the how of the strategy, what happens is you've put your power outside of yourself. And the next level is really this self-trust. And for those who do not get it, this will look delusional. Who's been called crazy lately? It will absolutely be delusional for those who do not understand this. And this for many will sound like judgment. This for many will be like, oh, well, you're just saying certain people aren't like spiritually evolved or whatever. I'm not here to even address that. Like, I just really, this is a total challenging for me even to like come out and just channel this, because there's so much here and there's so much that I absolutely don't know. But for those who don't get it, it's going to be, they're going to kind of sink back into, well, yeah, not understanding it. But for those who get it, like if you're sitting in this space, I'm sure you get it. So I know a lot of people will misinterpret this like, oh, but it's just Mercury retrograde night right now, or eclipse season. And you are meant to absolutely go beyond this. This is not what I'm talking about. This is not a passing energy. This is not that. You're meant to go actually beyond limiting yourself to your human design, limiting yourself to your modality, your step-by-steps. You are not meant to perpetuate those stories. This isn't for everyone, and that is cool. Once again, this is not a judgment. Like, there's a hierarchy. Like, this is better. This is the new. And I'm just sharing the channeling around what I have experienced. And now that I've spoken to some really, really powerful people who are like, what the hell is going on? It's fascinating to watch us sit in this place. So, the new is really for those who are seeing this. And I think the people who are ready for this, it's going to be landing for you actually even more heavily. Like, you might be in some really extreme chaos right now. I can literally feel it. Like, how far are you into the void is probably a good indication that this is almost like a test of your mettle. So if you're continuing to trying to go back into the old way, it's not going to work. Like, even if, this is what I also mean about, the precision, like even if a shred of your energy is in the old, if you're watering yourself down, if you're ignoring your destiny, if there's like this energy of, do you really want what you say you want? Are you willing to actually walk through the void? And I know wealthy people who have lost everything during this time, even their home. Like, this does literally kill people. This does. But they did not collapse. They are continuing in power. It's like, really, for lack of a better term, like your mettle is truly being tested. And you will see old tests. I'm really curious if you have noticed some like old things coming back into your experience. Old clients coming back if you're in business, old situations coming back, ex-boyfriends or whatever. Ex-girlfriends, people from your past, right? I've seen this like crazy this month. Yeah, we got a yes. Right? So the lesson here in this energetic training is like the void. How long can you remain unshakable, immovable, to root into the thing that you desire, but also to just know that you don't know what's next. And so also in the dark, when you absolutely cannot see. And so what I have noticed is the people who are navigating this really powerfully are able to hold nuance and paradox. You must be able to hold the both end. There's an element here of surrender. And right now it's filtering out, it's literally filtering out people who cannot surrender, because if you cannot hold this void space, you're going to quit. You're going to choose something that is not your destiny. You're going to choose something that's, you know, in the old paradigm. You're going to keep going back to that. And that's going to be the pattern, right? So those who are really cultivating this radical self-trust and continue to keep investing their attention, their time, their money, their energy in the places that, you know, you're meant to live and play and craft your destiny. Because right now, this is it. We're being asked to hold this longer than we ever have. This is what has been coming up for many of the people I'm speaking to. They're like, I've had dry periods, but this is insane. It doesn't matter if I tried to sell a $70,000 thing or a $7 thing. This is like literally what I'm actually hearing from people, and them saying, well, actually they're having the same experience where the stuff that worked before is not working. And so this is the question and the challenge, can you hold this for longer than you ever have, even when you see nothing, and you're being challenged for longer than you've ever been challenged? How long can you actually remain steady without going back to the old, without trying to translate your magic, without trying to go back to the old paradigm, without getting sucked into like consuming or even what your mentors are telling you, right? It's the learning of this, the distilling that, filtering that, and discernment. Because if you have radical self-trust, you already know. So it is how you take that data and how you use it. And these are the next level luminaries, visionaries, leaders who are ushering in this next phase. Whether you are, crafting a legacy or building a business, or if you're a founder, or if you're a CEO, like this literally applies to anyone who is trying to operate in an old way and not producing the results that they desire. These are for those who are on the leading edge, because the mission driven, those who are going the layers deeper in terms of allowing that experience to be their evolutionary process. This is really what I see happening now, like around the world, with having these visionary roundtables, because this is a thing that's actually happening. So I'm seeing this with myself. I'm seeing this with others, people who are operating at insanely high levels, who are activated, and let's call them like, a higher dimension or whatever you want to call it. They used to be able to create at the snap of their finger. They were like 6 and 7 figures, surrounded by projects, connections, like really confident in that. And then all of a sudden these crickets, like down to zero. And like, what the hell is that about? And this absolutely happened multiple times for me. And, where I went back to old connections, old, strategies of operating, and went back to old ways of even like sharing. And I was bringing myself into that paradigm because I insisted that if I saw all this, it should be able to work here too, right? And that's what really, really messed with what I was creating. And what was really happening, I was putting myself back in an old paradigm that could no longer actually hold the new technology that I was using. And so many of you are also in this place because you have a new technology. I was speaking to people who were literally collapsing and could not implement what I was giving to them. Their body systems were shorting out because I kept speaking and contorting to, the people in this room, trying to speak their language, to even just my own ego, to have people get it, or to have people see me Lots of ego stuff there too, but also lots of remembering and owning that next level power. And yes, this will totally seem delusional to a lot of people. And they will say that's really judgmental. No, these tools really work. What, they're ancient texts, which we've been using for thousands of years. Cool. Not here for that. There's something new. And so my work is actually to pull people out of that, the modality, out of that, because it is completely limiting. And this is not a judgment. This is just not what I'm here to do. So yes, for those who are speaking to each other in that room at that level, that will work. That's why you will see all of these people making fuck tons of money. And when you go into their world, it is like other. There's no substance to it. And that's fine, right? You're going to see in many industries, recycled, perpetuated creations, operations, systems. In the spiritual community, the mentor passing down mentor from mentor to mentor to mentor, right? The coaches sharing the money wins after the money wins to get their clients who are then going to advertise with the more money wins, who are going to get other clients who are going to advertise with the more money wins, right? It's so easy to get very involved and tethered because, yeah, totally sounds good. Totally sounds good. But there is a new era of visionaries, and where it isn't just about this. Once again, there's no judgment. It's just there's more. And for those of us who desire more, it's about a wider purpose and impact. It is about the elevation of consciousness, and it begins with you. But I know, many of you are not here to play in 3D in that way and can find it really, really frustrating. So we're coming up on the half hour. We're on the half hour. When I channel, I have like no concept of time. But this really is, very, very present for a lot of my friends who are with their own metaphysical technology. This applies also to everyone that feels like they didn't fit. They're still trying to land something in a place that isn't meant to even hold that kind of frequency. Founders, creatives, disruptors in some way that didn't operate the way others did, who are not operating at that old level. And this is now like this new era experience. And what I've noticed that the people who are really hit with this the most, because they aren't just talking to just the ego and just the material and what they can manifest. Do you notice like it's very much about the materials, right? And if we're talking about consciousness, yeah, there's just more, right? It's usually all about the materials you see. And I'm not saying that material or even ego is wrong in any way. But many are still even operating at the paradigm of healing, problem solution, or 3D manifestation, right? And if you're operating at healing, if you're operating a problem solution, you will always believe that there is a problem. You will always believe that you are a problem. And those who are here to learn something disruptive and new are moving beyond survival, or moving beyond the healing paradigm into the concepts of full expansion and speaking this into their experience, into their life, into their business, into their legacy on multi-dimensional levels. So it's about expansion. And I'm seeing these, those who are really like extremely attuned to their purpose. I'm not talking about people who are like, what am I here for? I don't know. Da, da, da. I mean, yes, they can fall into that. But what I've noticed, that people who are highly attuned to their purpose are now floating in the void. Like, what is next? So I'm going to end with this. You are next. It's you. You harnessing this power and radical self-trust to move beyond the modalities, beyond the systems, beyond the paradigms, beyond the ancient texts, beyond the whatever strategy you've been struggling with. Even if you're, mentor who's making $1 billion, it's working for them, right? Like, it doesn't matter. The new is you. And the more you understand how to connect with your own spiritual technology, the more you start to trust the way in which you move. This is it right here. And this is where you get to go into the realm of true limitlessness, of true unknown, and true self-mastery, which also includes you completely surrendering and knowing that there is no mastery. Sorry, guys, I have no answers for you. So there it is, the radical, unshakable trust in the way that you want to move and have it be so absolutely beyond logic. There's a new set of tools, and yet they aren't tools. They aren't collective tools. What I've seen the most is when you activate your own technology, it becomes an insanely powerful source of creation. But at the same time, being able to hold that paradox, right? So if you're experiencing this, I hope this maybe shed like a fraction of what's going on. In summary, the energy is really precise. It feels very black and white. If you're dipping your toe into the old way or the old paradigm, it is not going to work. So if you're in the void, this is not a bad thing. You don't need to perpetuate the story of like the void or chaos at all either. But if you're holding it for a long amount of time, this is just a reminder that it's almost like a test of your spiritual mettle. Like, are you willing to hold this beyond your ego, beyond your material desires, beyond all of these things, to actually listen to the inner genius that lives within you, and also, yeah, choose to listen to it and move from that place, even though it feels delusional, illogical, all of those wonderful things. So it just became clear to me that this needs to be an ongoing exploration and unraveling. And yeah, just saying that you are not alone in this experience. So I'm going to stop. Post what you like in the chat. Curious to hear if this lands for you, what your experience has been, and I'll just stick around for a couple more minutes. Let me check the chat because I see some things going on. Yeah, you're the only coach I consistently listen to, not trying to lift or anything, but just fact, because other coaches, again, is mimic. Yeah. I'm in the dark, feel like I go back and forth between iterations of my ego, and I'm standing back and observing. Love the message of trusting yourself and just holding the space. Yeah. But also not getting tethered to that story either, because there's a lot of people using this as like, oh, I'm in the void space, and then they don't take action. It's a very, it's a very interesting space of like the knowing, right, of how you operate and not allowing to have an outside source dictate what that looks like, or even dictate what is possible, or how something needs to look, right? There's that. So yeah, it is absolutely 1000% about you trusting yourself, but it's like what's coming through is, when I say radical, I know that is overused, but I mean fucking radical. Like, if someone's looking at you, they're like, you are insane. This is the look that most of the people around me give me now when I tell them I have done this, I have owned this, I have invested this. They're like, okay, like it's that level of like, that's what we're being called to. And I truly believe that next, the new leaders in this space, or, you know, who are on the kind of the leading edge of this, are going to be able to hold that. Like, this is the, like we're going to the gym. This is the muscle that we are flexing and, you know, cultivating and nourishing, because it requires, like, when, you know, when you're going to go out and say the things, and I know some of you on this live stream have insane technology. If you're going to go out, right, and say the things and be the thing, that can very much disrupt people's worlds. Like, my work is very disruptive as well. So I've seen that. So can you remain in this powerful integrity, and not only remain in it, but continue to expand, continue to amplify without any, you know, input coming in from anyone else that is going to kind of skew the path there, right? Like, this is really what I'm feeling, that of course we're in this void space. Of course, this is I don't like to say challenge or test, but that's what it's like. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just what it is right now. But in order to hold a certain amount of weight, you have to train. And this feels like a kind of training ground, if that makes sense. So I hope this was valuable to you. I hope this lands with you. This was a lot. And for those of you watching the replay, definitely want to hear your thoughts, and I'll continue to share this here in the Visionary portal. And yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of the day with these kind of thought nuggets. We'll be continuing the conversation for sure. So I'll see you next time. Bye.